We build products that shine under war conditions. So the more businesses experience turbulence, the more the world experiences pandemics and unfortunately war, the more the tools you need actually have to work. Our competition is jargon, PowerPoints, fraudulent products, and these products just disappear when you have economic crisis,
Right.
you have a pandemic, you have a war, and the stuff we've been building over 20 years shines. And you see this, you saw this in the counterterrorism context, you saw it in the pandemic context, as discussed here. Theory, and it's being proven, is exactly the same thing happens in the commercial sector. So if you have all these data architecture, which is basically 50 products that are churning your data, pleasuring your org, but providing no real alpha. When times get bad, your supply chain gets broken. You have to deal with a different kind of workforce. You're drilling for oil under regulatory conditions that you find to be new and harsh. You have to track emissions. You have to rebuild your supply chain. The old products just don't work. You know, we really like the older customers because we've shown it's worked, and we can say, look, we're creating $1 billion in value. We obviously should expand our software offering. We like new customers. I mean, the unvarnished version is Palantir is growing like a weed in the US, which is adaptive and embraces new technologies. And we are embracing that. If you look at what's going on in the world, radical disruption, our products are succeeding. And the US market, part of the reason I can't answer that question is you'd have to say, well, how we did Q4. Our US market growth is really impressive. It depends. In the Ukrainian context, they had talked to the most important clandestine service and military in the world. They unanimously recommended Palantir, and they're very technical. So then you have newer clients. At this stage, my basic thing I tell clients, partners is like, look, everyone will tell you the same stuff. It all looks the same. Why don't you just see our stuff in action or talk to people who've used the software? You know, if you're going to buy the software off of PowerPoint, don't buy us. You want to talk to someone who's used our software, you'll buy us. Definitely working in the US. And then elsewhere, we're at the beginning. Look, we didn't have salespeople until a couple of years ago. So a lot of this is figuring out how we can do this. I think we've kind of gotten pretty close to cracking the nut in the US, and then we have to expand it outside the US. Well, I'm proud to work with the US government. For 20 years, when it was popular and investors thought it was crucial to work in China, we've said the same thing. There's no distinction between public and private entities there. Our products are actually also weapons of war, and we're not going to sell them directly or indirectly to adversaries. This made us enormously controversial in Silicon Valley and still makes us controversial in Silicon Valley. And quite frankly, it's one of the decisions I'm most proud of. We are a company whose most important purpose is to power the West to even higher heights in the commercial and in the government context. And we've done this in anti-terror, in the context of the pandemic, in the context of war, in the context of data protection. And you really can't do that if you're going to also transfer those technologies indirectly or directly to your adversaries. And we've never done that. So we are a company that has a primary mission. The primary mission is to make the West stronger and better. That mission has secondarily led to 61% CAGR over 20 years, 35% CAGR in the US government. And the share price thing is, I think, a little bit of a red herring because all tech is down. I don't think our shares have been any more punished than anyone else's. So if you are an investor and you want to go long on transforming our country and our allies, you have a home at Palantir. I have never, ever, ever wavered from that statement. And if you don't want to invest in us because of that, you should. And if you're investing in us thinking I'm going to change, you're making a mistake. We lay our cards on the table. There is nothing besides transparency here. When we went to the Ukraine, I didn't ask them, can you pay us? I said, here's the product. If I had gone to standard investor, they'd be like, well, you can't do this until they pay you. When we started off in America on the pandemic and in Britain, we said, look, we can help. This is the primary mission of our company. And I think where I'm very aligned with investors is they're hearing the truth. I'm not saying, hey, we might change this policy. We might do crazy deals in adversarial countries. We might put the other missions ahead of our point. No, and by the way, I tell the most important investors that every day, Palantirians, and I tell our retail investors whom I revere that every time I go on TV,
In the
You
space.
know what you're buying when you buy Palantir. In the fairness of full transparency, in the last year or so, I've only sold for tax reasons. There's been no financial sales. Silicon Valley has obviously failed in its mission to produce technology that's useful and useful for the world and makes it a better place. And we were, I think, the first reasonably large company to leave. And now I'm very happy to come back and say, look, on occasion, our position is a position we're proud of, and be surrounded again by people who disagree with me. Do not join Palantir if you are not willing to support the U.S. military and its allies. You can have, by the way, any political opinion you want, as long as that's not a question for you. If it is a question for you, Palantir is not your home. Look, I'm very happy what I'm doing. I think I'm sitting on one of the most important levers for good in the world, and I don't plan to leave that position. Our governments are spending less than 1% on things that scare Russia and China. I want that to change to like 5%, and Palantir will obviously be a large portion of that. And on the commercial side, look, making sure an industry that's dynamic wins is something we're passionate about. So we're going to grow and build and build. Over 20 years, we've built 4, arguably 5 of the most important software products in the world. Over the next 20 years, we'll build 4 or 5 of the most significant software products in the world. We're going to grow our presence all over. We're going to stay small and nimble, so we are hiring, but we're not like a body shop. We're just going to continue, keep our culture vibrant, build on our culture, build our deployments, and show the world that, the West is strong.